right. Hello, Dr. Peters. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I noticed on your bio that you were born and raised in Kerala, India. Is that the home of those famous massage therapies? The oil massages with the tools and things like that?
Yes, it is. It's in the southernmost part of India, at the ocean. It is a tourist destination similar to Florida for United States. And we have the oil massage, Ayurvedic massage that all started there. There are big resorts, five-star hotels with that type of massage therapy and treatment. Yes, I'm glad that you know about it.
Well, I've seen some videos on YouTube and it looks completely comfortable and relaxing. And, you know, it was one of those things that I saw and I thought, geez, I'd love to try that. But India is a long way away from Las Vegas, so I just never quite got there. But when I saw it on your bio, I thought, oh yeah, that sounded very familiar.
Yeah, it's very natural, and Ayurvedic medicine is applied. They take 25 different types of natural leaves and boil that and make fresh oil out of it, and then massage with that oil.
So the end result is rejuvenation, I assume, right? It gets the blood flowing, it gets toxins out of your body, things like that?
That's correct. They use the meridians to massage. It's two people at the same time, one person on one side, the other one on the other side, using meridians to massage to take the toxins out. That's the belief.
So your book is called Barefoot to Benefactor, and it is the story of your life, is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay.
This is my story of life of faith and courage.
It's funny when people have a life story because they say, give us a synopsis of the book, but you're actually giving us a synopsis of your life. So just tell us about your childhood a little bit and how you got to where you are.
Yes, so I was born and raised in a small village, very poor, no running water or electricity. Born into a Christian family, and this was a big part of my life. We are less than 5% Christians in India. So my mother raised us three children. I'm the youngest, with strong faith, and that carried me through 4 continents. There is an accelerated program of education in India, which I took, and I was able to leave my village at age 14 to start my pre-med and my medical school.
You started pre-med, excuse me, you started pre-med at 14?
That's correct. We packed two bags. I carried one bag, and my father carried the other, walked across the paddy fields, and that's where the barefoot comes from. With the paddy fields, you cannot have shoes or slippers, and we didn't have anyway. So we walked barefoot to the bus station and took a bus to the city, and I never came back. And that was 14 years old. I started my chemistry and pre-med straight into medical school. So I was a doctor very early in India, but I wanted to continue my studies and explore London and wanted to get there. And I was able to get to London, and I have 2 degrees from there, member of the Royal College of Physicians. And I worked there for 5 years and furthered my education.
Wow, so you were like the Indian Doogie Howser, huh?
Yes, I was very fortunate. I was very blessed. Early on, there's an area of about 70 million people, and pretty much knew that I had some special gifts.
You mentioned that you grew up in a Christian household. How did your family become Christians? Because I know it's mostly Hindu, right?
Right. 70% are Hindus, but that's part of the reason I wrote this book. There is a big history of Christianity in India that goes starting AD 20. St. Thomas started the church 20 years after Jesus passed. There's also a long history of Judaism in India from the time of King Solomon, I'm told. So those facts are not well documented, and I wanted to write and give historic proof to that. So we were Christians since AD 20, and we were descendants or followers of St. Thomas, the Doubting Thomas. And over many years, we were not able to propagate the religion because there's already Buddhism and Hinduism, homegrown religions there.
Right. So that was long before the British got there.
That is right.
The Christianity was there. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. There's many years, many centuries before that. So 400 years ago, the British and the Europeans came. The first Portuguese sailor, or the first European sailor, was Portuguese, and his name is Vasco da Gama. He came around the Cape of Good Hope of Africa and landed in the tip of India where my hometown is. And he was also shocked to know that there were Christians who lived there for many centuries. The original names of our Christians, our Christian faith, as you know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they did not live when Jesus lived. They were Anglican British names, rewritten 400, 600 years later. But the original names of John when Jesus lived was Yohanan. That's the language that Jesus spoke. George was Joris, and Peter was Patros. David was Dawood, Matthew was Mattai. That's the Aramaic name, and we had those Aramaic names. Even today, some of my family tree cousins did not change their names, so they are Yohanans and they are Patros, who still live in the United States, my cousins. But my lineage changed the name from Patros. With the British came, they said, if you change the names to British names, we can give some degree of protection. So the Patroses, 400 years ago, became Peters, and that's my name. So I did not change it. My father was Joseph Peters. My brother is George Peters. And my sister is Gladys. So I have an English name, but that was changed by British influence.
Are the Christians persecuted in India by the Indian people?
It had a long history of that years ago, and that was one of the reasons we asked to change our names from Patros to Peters, because of that persecution. But more recently, it is not an overt prejudice, but the government, Indian government now, is a Hindu party. So it's obviously supported by the religion. So we don't get killed these days, but we don't have any opportunities to become part of the upper class.
Okay.
So in that way, we have a social disadvantage.
You're reminding me a little bit of that movie, The Life of Pi. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
Because the boy was very funny in that, where one day he was Catholic, the next day he was Hindu, and he was just exploring all of them. And there was that funny scene where he went into the Catholic Church and tried to drink the holy water.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So when did you come to the United States?
So I was in London for 5 years. I was 24 years old. I was working as the first assistant to a very prominent British doctor. He was Sir Grey. He was a knight in the royal family. I will just explain this. My first day in London, I didn't know anyone. So a distant person that heard about me, and he came to the airport, Heathrow Airport, and he had sponsored me, but I never met him. But he took me to his one bedroom, and he gave me his bed, and he slept on the floor. That was my first day. I passed the exams, got my job, and then worked my way through the system to become the first assistant to Sir Grey. He had 3 hospitals, so I was well positioned.
Wow.
And in return, he will invite to return his favor. He will invite me to his palace outside London and play croquet every Sunday evening and have dinner with some of the other royalties. So a person who just got there and lived in a 1-bedroom first day. I left when I was playing croquet with the royalty. So that was a big part of the reason I was able to do is to use the power of forgiveness. British people have done a lot of bad things to Indians in India, but instead of looking at the bad things, I chose to look at what are the good things they did. They built railway from north to south, east to west, and united the country. Otherwise, India would be like Africa, a mixture of 25 small countries fighting with each other. From my state to the next state, I don't speak their language, I don't eat their food, I don't dress like them. So the only thing that was uniting was that British influence, and they gave us the English language, the international language. So we all study English from grade 1. That's why I can write a book in English. So I chose to look at what good they did and work with them and use the power of forgiveness and not be harboring anger towards them for my whole life. And there's a majority of Indians do that. And I'm not faulting them for it, but what I did was do the other way. So Sir Gray helped me through, he was like a father figure. He didn't have to do that. So I wrote this book. The first title I picked was Angels in My Life, because every place I went, I lived in 4 continents, Asia, Africa, Europe, and here. People came from nowhere. Ordinary people, they were angels without wings. So I wanted to write about them. I wanted to say how although we are so much in trouble internationally and nationally, people can't talk to each other. We have difficulties with others, but we still can find good people around. Just have to open your heart and soul and find them. So he helped me come to United States. So that's the long answer to your question. At that point in time, at University of Pittsburgh, they were starting liver transplant program. So he said, I think you will be good. I'll make a phone call. I'll get you there, because he's a big philanthropist, given money to a lot of people. So they already taken their residents in June, July, but they created a position for me in November. So I came to study there. And then I went on to do gastroenterology. It was the first liver transplant center in the world, and it's also the largest. Dr. John Starsell was the first surgeon who did liver transplant in the world. So that's why I came to the United States. Then I moved to North Carolina, Wake Forest University, to do research in gastroenterology and do my fellowship. And I stayed in North Carolina, built my businesses, raised my family. So that's how I arrived and started my life here in the United States.
Well, that's really an amazing story. And I think you're right. I think everybody has their angel somewhere in their life. There's somebody that changes your life profoundly. It could be your parents, but generally not. Generally, it's somebody you meet outside of the home, outside of the family. And, well, great. That's a super story. Nice to hear it. We just got a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to touch on your website. It's an organization that you've created?
Yeah, so I've been very successful. We have the largest independent provider of healthcare in the state of North Carolina. We're also the largest minority-owned business of any kind in North Carolina. That's my businesses. I started them. We are in healthcare, financial services, and real estate. It's a big family business, 7 companies. So while I did all of that, I also wanted to not lose sight of my purpose in life, to help people. So I started my foundation years ago, Lenny Peters Foundation, to help orphan children and cancer patients terminally ill. I didn't have to look all over the world, because there's 1.3 billion people in India. More than 50% are poor. So the reason I was born there was a reason for me to go back and help them. So I focused my foundation work here in the United States. So it's a helping hand here at home and around the world. So we have now 8 centers and it's the LennyPetersFoundation.org. We have not done any fundraising for the foundation. My companies fund it. But this book, 100% of the proceeds from this book, the Barefoot to Benefactor, it's pre-sale at Amazon and Barnes & Noble sites. And 100% of the proceeds go to orphan children and cancer patients. So that I have put a stamp on the front of the book. So it is a way of helping while I'm telling my story. My story to inspire not only immigrants, people who are here, who feel like they didn't get a good share of the prosperity. And so to say that, you know, we can all look at today. I have never met a person who could change yesterday. I do not know of anyone who can accurately predict tomorrow. So what do we have today? Let's look at today and see. Let's not talk about what happened 10 years ago, 100 years ago. Let's not harbor anger. Let's forgive. Never forget these things happen. So I write about the hostilities that I faced when I came to the southern United States 35 years ago, and the prejudices. And those are all real facts. But I could have been angry all my life against the British or against population, some population in the South that felt that I should leave town. But now I am the largest developer. I'm helping the city in a phenomenal way. So that's the message I want to give. And I think it is important for people to know that there are angels everywhere. And there's a person in North Carolina, same way. Real Southern gentleman, N. Hampton Childs. He had no reason to help me, but he had a great practice. So he sold the practice to me and lifted me up. So even in those circumstances, when I felt like people are ganging up against me, there were people to help.
Great story, very inspiring. Dr. Peters, we do have to wrap this up. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Could you just give out your website one more time, please?
It's LennyPetersFoundation.org, Lenny Petersfoundation.org. And also you can make a donation there. How can you help? You can make a donation to the foundation. That will help. There are 8 centers around the world. 7 of them are in India. We just opened one in South Africa, Johannesburg. It's a Lenny Peters Home for Children. Or if you buy a book or order any number of books, all of that proceeds will go to good cause and good reason.
Great. Thanks again for coming on. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.